Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jordan Smith, and today on Roundtable, we're talking with a few special guests. We've got Scott Harrigan, Steve Duffy, and Kris Schill joining us today. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Jordan.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hey, did you used to work at the Fox?
I'm not going to go into it at the moment. Awkward silence. Let's move on.
There's that cricket button.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is the format of this show is we're all going to bring a topic to the table. You three are going to bring a topic to the table. I'm going to referee, and we're going to see what comes out of it. We don't really know what we're going to talk about. Unscripted. We'll see how sideways this goes as soon as Scott gets on the mic. And we'll go. So we're going to jump into our first topic. And Scott, I want you to bring us our first topic. What did you want to talk about today?
Oh, let's go right deep right away. It's Tokyo Olympics. I don't think it should happen. I'm shocked that it went off.
I tend to agree. But I have to say, like, over the last few years, I've definitely lost my interest in the Olympics anyway.
For me personally, when it stops being amateur and goes to pros and stuff like that, and also some of the events, right? Inline hockey, I think, should be an Olympic sport.
Oh, I'd like to see inline hockey, lacrosse. I'd like to see.
So, how many sports are out there just for the athletes that spectators are going? Ugh.
We don't want to watch.
I can't remember what it is.
I'm looking at a list of all of the Olympic sports in the Summer Olympic, and there's a lot of sports.
I will never understand how they score in fencing.
I don't know. I'm looking at this list, and I can't remember the last time I saw these sports on TV as even an option to watch if I wanted
when you
to.
were a kid.
Right.
Well, even the most recent Summer Olympics, I'm looking at this. I'm like, I didn't know half of these events were even in the Olympics, let alone the ability to watch them.
What's the one?
Sport climbing, like rock climbing.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say these aren't tremendous athletes because it takes a lot of skill.
Yeah, for the athletes and not for the spectator.
Yeah, but like, I'm not watching that.
Would you watch if they fell?
Well, okay.
Thank you.
As long as they didn't get hurt too
Of
bad,
course, not
I
hurt.
suppose. But
They got roped.
yeah, if they fell, I'd definitely watch it. It's kind of like NASCAR. I only watch for the crashes.
I think we all do.
So
you mentioned inline skating, Scott, or inline hockey.
Inline hockey.
I think inline hockey would be a lot of fun to watch. I'm totally in for that. But there is a requirement for a sport to become an Olympic sport. And according to the IOC, the Olympic Charter indicates that in order to be accepted as an Olympic sport, a sport must be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries.
Why just men?
Whoa.
Well, there's more.
Whoa.
There's more. We'll get back to that. Yeah. It must be widely practiced by men in at least 75 countries on at least 4 continents, and by women in no fewer than 40 countries and on 3 continents.
Interesting.
So if we apply your inline
What are those
hockey
numbers again? What? 70?
So 75 countries for men.
Right.
Has to be widely played in 75 countries on 4 continents. So we're talking over half the planet.
So we're talking like in warmer climate. Well, hockey's just not a thing in a lot of
and like
places.
Hockey, if you think about it like
Even
that,
inline hockey isn't a thing that like would they play inline hockey in, I don't know, like
you're probably not going to find
ice.
you're not going to find inline hockey widely played outside of North America, let alone 75 countries. So
the requirement is that, so that's why we're not seeing it. But with the thing with the Tokyo thing and why it shouldn't happen is, I mean, there's so many reasons. The athletes definitely, it's not the same caliber of athlete. They're not getting an Olympic experience really. As a spectator, you're going to.
Is it safe?
Is it safe?
So money. This whole thing is all surrounded by
money.
I agree for sure.
And that's the Olympic. That's, you asked why the sheen's been taken off. Before it used to be, you had somebody from whatever that was really good at it.
It was amazing, yeah.
But I don't know. It's just so corporate now, and we're surrounded by corporate.
I remember
every
when
day.
I was a kid. Like, I absolutely loved it. It was a big time.
to
I
watch it all
got
the
so
time.
excited. I loved watching swimming. I loved watching the hockey. I loved watching the ski. Like, everything.
Now, I like
running
Special
now.
Olympics.
Yep.
I love
Yeah,
watching them.
absolutely.
I absolutely love watching. I'd rather
Absolutely.
watch that than the Olympics.
There's a lot of joy there, right?
It-
They work really hard. They
Natural, true
train really
competition.
hard. They're not getting paid millions of dollars. It's real competition.
Absolutely. So I would
And
rather
the whole
watch
the
that.
whole argument between are pro athletes allowed to compete in the Olympics? That's a completely separate argument because
absolutely.
the whole reason the Olympics has existed for so long is it was meant to showcase the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And when the Olympics was a thing, there wasn't such a thing as the NHL style pay structure or European football or things like
Fair
that.
enough, yeah.
So
Well, now they can't even agree. The union has to agree to this to get that,
Yeah.
and the commissioner has to do this. And then there's all about insurance and all this other stuff. Where
Yeah.
it's all money.
It's all money.
But it used to just be Joe Blow down the street that's really good at hockey, but he wasn't good enough to be
And
an
do you
NHLer.
remember, like the other thing about
Or
the
whatever.
Olympics, do you remember, like, back in the day, the Olympics were such a big thing, and that an amateur athlete getting put on like a Cheerios box or whatever, well, that was a big
deal.
thing, and it
Without
was,
a
and
doubt.
it was, and people loved those amateur athletes, and it was a
100%.
big thing for them to
What
be
used
put
to
on
get me
product.
is they used to say the Olympics are for amateurs. The Canadians would ice an amateur hockey team, get their asses kicked every time. The
So what?
Russians would ice a team. They were army players that were employed by the army, paid by the army to play hockey. They're pros.
Well, the argument there is the best in the world at certain sports are doing it professionally. Same with European football. Like you get soccer players, all the best soccer players in the world, regardless of what country, they're getting paid to play the soccer. Same with hockey, and
Like the World Cup, the Euros.
yeah, and
But how many upsets? Really?
yeah, there's
Like how many upsets would happen? So, like if the dream team in basketball, which
Yeah.
drives me mental, I'm cheering for the other team. I don't care who the other team is.
Yeah.
I want them
They're going to
to
go
lose.
for the underdog for sure.
Well, they're underdogs.
That's why you should have cheered
because
for the Habs
they're-
this year, but
yeah,
you didn't.
Like, I cheered for who? We're only 3 minutes into this, and you're already bringing up the Habs because
Of
you made
course
it to the
I am.
final. Oh,
Of course.
shit.
she'll bring it up
They
until
never
the
made
league.
the first round. Let's let I hope. What's
Yeah,
what's
I
your
think
topic?
I think
So you like
we're
the
going to circle
underdog.
back to that in just a second,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Oh, are we?
yeah, I
The
think we
Leafs
are.
and Habs?
No,
No,
I don't
underdog.
want to have to
right.
break you two up. The Olympic thing, it's a challenge. Obviously, the Olympics are going to happen whether we think it should or not. It's coming, and there's a lot of money at play. There's already analysts saying that the Japanese government and the corporations involved are losing billions of dollars. And there's also these facilities that were built for the Olympics that are being turned over to the private sector
To recoup some of that money.
to recoup
possibly.
that. Same as the Olympic Village in Whistler, it got turned into housing.
Calgary didn't want it because they knew they would lose money. Remember?
Yeah.
They
Well, yeah,
withdrew
it's
their
been
bid
well
and-
known that-
and
I
stuff
don't
like
think
that.
anybody makes money on the Olympics. I think it's pretty common that people lose a lot of money.
They hope to gain in tourism.
It's a
and stuff
tourism
where-
thing. It's meant for your economy.
Japan's
Anyway,
not getting that
that's
this
not the
year.
argument we're having at the moment. Japan, there's some reports saying that 80% of the Japanese public do not want the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
that number is astronomical. They're having issues with vaccines. They're bringing all of these athletes from all over the world.
So there's a safety issue there.
a
Well, there's
huge safety
already
issue.
a couple that came out that said they've tested positive.
Yeah.
And there's countries like the United States and Canada have high vaccination rates, but there's other countries that don't. They're sending athletes anyway. Now the Japanese public say we don't want the Olympics. The Japanese government obviously doesn't care a whole bunch.
because they
They're-
want to recoup that
They
money.
want that. That's the
Yeah.
money. It's
It's
all it
always
is.
money.
And it's the same issue as FIFA when we're getting into World Cups and things like that.
And they had
There's
spikes of COVID in the stadiums.
yeah, they're putting these tournaments in places in the world that they shouldn't be at for no other reason than money.
Yeah,
And
100%. 100%.
There's no way around it. I don't think it's ever going to change.
So that's kind of where it comes that the corporations' greed is more important than the people.
That's right.
That's just the way.
And in
that's
capitalist
been like that,
nations, it's always going to be like that.
Yeah.
It's been like that for years.
Oh, it has been for
I
sure.
have no interest in the Olympics anymore. None.
Yeah,
The
I don't either.
Yeah, for sure. I guess.
I
But-
mean,
Remember, you could put the news on. You could catch a good local story with no lean. You made up your own mind. Now you can't.
oh no, you
Everybody
definitely-
says the media is so skewed, and it's true.
it's absolutely scary.
If I had been still working in the media and somebody said that, I would have been very upset. But now I can see where you're coming. You know, like the NBC, CNBCs, the MSNBCs, the Foxes.
yeah, so
They're
that
so
everybody will
left
play
and
the
right,
Olympics
you know.
because they want to.
I get my news from Facebook.
Yeah,
That's
You get your
accurate.
opinions?
now I will say, just as we wrap this topic up, there are a few discontinued summer sports that I would jump all over the Olympics to watch if they brought these sports back.
Okay, I gotta hear
Well,
it.
rugby is a big
yeah.
one. So that one's obvious. Lacrosse, same thing. But
Field lacrosse.
those sports are, I believe they're both coming back in some form in the future.
Sevens rugby?
Apparently, tug of war used to be an Olympic sport.
Tug of war.
War.
I get it.
Yeah.
I could see that more so than say ballroom dancing.
It's tug of war.
I can see tug of war in 4 continents.
Yeah, there's also croquet.
Croquet.
Apparently, that was an Olympic sport. Anyway, that's
How do you play that without drinking?
Well, you don't.
that would make Olympics a lot more fun.
It would.
There's
Curling-
a couple
curling is
Olympic
an
sports
If
that
we
should.
could bring that back and you had to, I don't know, drink every time something happens because I don't know anything about croquet.
You never
that
played
could
croquet?
be really entertaining.
You never played
Oh,
croquet?
I probably did, but I don't remember because I was probably drunk.
That's when you step on the ball and then you try to drive the other
yeah,
guy.
I know,
Yeah.
So, Chris, we're going to switch over to your topic. Let's wrap. I think the consensus. There's not a really whole lot of argument. The Olympics probably a bad idea. It's going to happen anyway.
Okay, well, here we go.
Oh
Big
God.
news coming yesterday.
Of what?
Carey Price left unprotected in the expansion draft.
cares?
So
Hey,
for those that you
I
don't
care.
know, Seattle has an NHL hockey team that starts their first season in the upcoming NHL season in September. At the time that we're recording this, the draft has not happened, but it will be happening. And the way it works is Seattle has to pick one player from 30 of the 31 teams. So they get to pick one player from every team except Las Vegas.
Except Las Vegas.
And,
they get a pass.
These teams had the ability to protect a certain number of players, and then anybody that they couldn't protect is fair game.
What was it? 7 forwards, 3 defensemen,
Yeah,
and a goalie
and
they
one
could protect?
goalie.
Well, there was flexibility in how it was. It was more like you could do 8 forwards or 6 forwards if you
Oh,
want
I
to
thought it
protect
was
more
pretty-
defensemen.
okay, I thought it
there
was
there
pretty
was some
strict
wiggle room
about-
in there because not everybody protected the same amount of players.
So here's my whole thing. First off, I hate the expansion thing. I don't like the way that it's done. I just don't. I think
You should be able to pick from the AHL.
HL, exactly.
Pick from the minor leagues.
Because
and
this
then
is
build up.
first off, this is what I think. I think like teams like the Leafs have been struggling for years to rebuild. I'm just pointing that out in case you weren't aware. And, so they've been struggling. I mean, all the teams have struggled to build great teams. And these guys come in and they do get it. A lot of people are like, well, they keep their best players protected, so they don't really get the best of the best. Well, of course they do. They're not drafting from the AHL or the,
Yeah.
Look at Las Vegas.
They're getting handed-
cherry-picked, and they won the Stanley Cup final in their first year of existence.
So
Yeah,
here's
but-
my thing with the Carey Price thing. I understand the logic in what they're doing. The seasons are long in the NHL. Price is definitely a really amazing goalie, and he's a great playoff
Second best
goalie.
in the league.
Well, I'd say the best, but I know.
I think he's the best goalie in the last generation. But anyway,
for sure.
I'm thinking that guy in Tampa
I
played pretty
understand
good,
they
no?
he did, but I will
Really?
say,
That's
did you see the
good.
team in front of him
In Tampa?
on Tampa?
Yeah.
Okay, well, look at Montreal's team. A bunch of youngsters, a few older guys who played with so much heart that got them to the place that they got. But Carey Price did stand on his head to get them.
does he get picked?
But here's my thing about this.
He stood on his head in the Tampa series?
At
He
the
did
end.
indeed.
Near the end, he did. At the
So
beginning, he was.
Hey, Scott, let her finish her point.
So here's my thing about this. I understand why they did it because it is a long season, and Jake Allen was probably going to get taken. He's a phenomenal goalie, and he literally helped us make the playoffs for sure this year. I mean, Price was out for the last month and a half, so I understand the point. He's $10.5 million a year for 5 years, and then $11 million signing bonus. Their thought is they're not going to touch him, but they were really thinking about taking him. So do you leave
and then
your
today
star?
they come out with, he's got a knee injury now.
Well, yeah.
Jesus, can't take him now, boys.
But it was the
Well,
Kraken.
why not mention that
It
before?
was the Kraken who found
No,
out.
they were backpedaling.
Wow.
He might have knee surgery, he might have back surgery, he might have hip surgery now.
I'm
too.
just saying, is that like
Now
I'll be honest.
here's my option. Okay, so there's a couple of options that the Kraken have.
I'd take him anyway and trade him.
That's
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 what-
probably the likely one.
Hello.
So what you do, he's got a $10.5 million cap hit.
And an $11 million bonus being paid in the next month.
Yeah.
So the Kraken take that. They take the contract. They flip him. They keep part of his salary. Carey Price is now golden trade bait.
So
Leafs.
Oh my God, I would boycott the NHL.
I'm telling you right now,
I would love it.
If Price ends up on the Leafs in any way after this, we're going to do a show immediately afterwards and just watch Kris rage for an hour.
I will cry and break things, and it'll be
you can host.
Probably.
I'll let you host.
So here's my thing. I obviously don't want to lose Price, but I did have an interesting conversation with Kenny, who's also a Habs fan, and his take was, well, you know what? We lose Weber's contract, we lose Price's contract. What could that do for the Montreal Canadiens? Allen is a great regular season goaltender, but could he do what Price could do in the playoffs? Price is a playoff goaltender. That's
how many more years does he have?
I'm going to say he has about 2 or 3 good ones left in him.
Because I was convinced if they won the Cup this year, he retired.
Well, he may have. That knee injury has been nagging, and I saw in the Tampa series there were a couple goals there that I thought his knee was nagging him again because that Kreider incident there. He's never really that knee's nagged him ever.
I think if Montreal wins the Cup this year, he
River.
Yeah,
Kreider near River. Leafs
Okay,
fans so jaded.
just 10 minutes up on this.
Man, you just really don't like talking about the Habs.
I detest the Habs.
I get that, but what do you think about the expansion draft?
I'm not a fan of the format of the expansion draft.
How do you think we could make the expansion draft better?
You pick from the AHL.
I agree.
Now, here's my counter argument to that. It's right back to the Olympic question. It's about money. The NHL is a business. It's a for-profit business. And if Seattle picks from the AHL, they're going to have a garbage team for how many years? They're not going to be able to. They're not going to.
The rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah, that's true. But what they need to do when they're in Seattle, that team needs to come out swinging to have the season ticket holders, to have the corporate sponsorship, to have all of the...
No. You have to sell. In order to even purchase a franchise, you have to sell this allotted amount of tickets.
I'm aware of that.
Right?
But
so, just having...
If you have a crap team right from day one, you're not going to be able to turn around and have those long-term...
But I think in the process,
the casual fan.
I understand what you're saying, but I think in the process of doing that, you're losing
So maybe
other fans.
maybe just pick from teams that made the playoffs.
Okay.
And leave the other teams alone.
And then I think it's wrong that Vegas has been in the league for how long?
But here's the thing: nobody expected Vegas to do what they did the first year, right? That's good coaching. That's
good management too.
That's great management.
It's good management, and I think
they picked up some dandy
but
players.
They got
okay,
some
great.
dandy players. You have to admit that.
But how are they there's a lot of good players on a lot of good teams, and they don't make the playoffs.
Chemistry.
Right?
Chemistry, for sure. I agree with you.
So
maybe you let the teams protect more players.
If you're picking off a team like Buffalo,
So maybe
and
they
they're
get a
already
handful of
struggling,
players and AHL players.
if you don't make the playoffs, you pick from the AHL. Leave the NHL guys alone. Yeah. So, if you're going to take players off Buffalo,
But the thing
what? Leave them alone.
But the thing I was going to say about Vegas is I just don't think they've been in the league for a while. Why did they get a pass? Why can't a player be taken for them? I don't like. I
think they needed a nice round number, and it was convenient because they wanted to have a certain number of. Because when Vegas did the draft, they had to pick 30 players as well.
Fair enough.
Seattle 30 as well. Well, maybe.
But don't forget the cap is set this year and it's low, lower than it's right. So I mean, they don't have the pick. When Vegas picked, the cap was pretty high. I think.
Yeah, high cap.
I think Seattle is going to put together a really good team. Just looking at the available teams that are playing. Maybe they're not going to make a cup run like Vegas did in year one, but I think it'll be.
Anybody should you?
No.
Right.
No.
And not only that. Where's the head coach from Seattle? Where did he come from?
Oh, Sault Ste. Marie.
What team did he come from?
Was it Hartford?
No, it's the fucking Leafs. They haven't had a good chance.
Oh.
They're not going anywhere in the first year.
Not even going to make the playoffs, even with Price.
Ron Francis that's the head of the
GM.
He's a GM.
He's the GM. Sorry.
Coach came from Toronto. He was the assistant coach.
Yeah.
That was
Francis
a weird
is from my
choice too, by the
hometown.
way.
What's that?
That was a weird choice, by the way. While we're on that,
yeah.
Seattle picked him. Whatever.
We'll see. Steve, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, here we go.
Is pro wrestling a sport?
Ooh.
I don't know anything about wrestling, really.
You talk to a professional wrestler, and I
Okay.
have Bret the Hitman Hart, my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And
Fair.
you say, is wrestling fake? They'll look at you and they want to beat the crap out of you. Because
They get major
guys
injuries
like
in
Stone
wrestling. I
Cold
do
Steve
know that.
Austin, The Undertaker, neck injuries, back injuries.
Absolutely.
It's flying around like
Who's the one that just died?
I haven't watched I watched it a bunch when I was a kid, and I haven't watched it in quite a while. I know a couple of friends still watch it quite avidly, and we've had that discussion. We've gone back and forth, and I will say unequivocally, it is a sport.
Oh, for sure.
And the physical talent that's required to perform what they do is impressive.
Choreographed.
The outcome might be choreographed. Parts of the event might be choreographed. It's the wrong word. It is choreographed, but it still requires incredible athletic talent.
One of the player wrestlers was busted open, and the WWE has stated, this is a family event, we got no blood. And one of the guys was bleeding profusely.
Well, the brother Hart died, right?
Owen Hart died. I watched that event.
I'm going to actually say I don't really, and I loved wrestling, and I watched it a lot. I don't really think it's a sport.
Ooh.
I do think that
Is figure skating a sport? You love figure skating. Is that a sport? That's choreographed.
Yeah. Yeah, but the outcome's not already predetermined.
Yeah, and that's generally the argument people have when it comes to pro wrestling.
That's what my argument
is the outcome in most cases, if not all cases,
are
are
a loser. You know what I mean? Whereas
So-
this is all choreographed. They know who's winning, and
It's funny because I got to interview Bret the Hitman after he retired and he had to retire because of concussions. Because a guy named Bill Goldberg kicked him in the head too hard, wrongly, and it missed. And,
wrong timing, right? Because they have to time
and Bret Hart
everything.
says, he was asked, how would you rate Bill Goldberg on a scale of 1 to 10? And Bret said 0. So there was injuries.
Goldberg was an
Look
NFL
at Chris Benoit. He was.
player. Was he
there's a
not?
few,
He was
yeah.
banned from the wrestling ring because he killed his family, then himself in a roid rage situation.
Yeah, football players. That's
And,
that brain thing.
And then Davey Boy Smith died in a car crash. Tommy Billington, the Dynamite Kid, is confined to a wheelchair because his back is so messed up.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. What they do is dangerous because even with the choreographing, if you miss timing on anything, there's some serious injuries that definitely happen.
And you watch
there.
these guys on WWE, they're flying off the ring onto the floor, piling into guys, flying into guys at the. Okay, they're being caught, but that takes meticulous time.
Have you ever seen an old wrestler like today from
the
back?
magnificent Moolah, the woman,
You know
the
what I
lady,
mean?
remember her?
Oh, man, they just look
Ric
just
Flair wrestled
done
until he
in.
was like 52, 53.
Pain pills.
There are a few.
Kids too.
Hello.
There have been a few pro wrestlers that have competed
Remember Jake
until quite a bit older. One wrestler called The Undertaker. He made news recently. He just retired, and he's in his 60s.
He just retired.
He just
I was
retired.
watching
Mike
him when
Callahan.
I was a kid.
Yeah, and
That's
there's a
insane.
few. There's another wrestler that I remember watching when I was a kid, Sting. He competed outside of the WWF, WWE, and he's still competing.
Yep.
And he's in his 60s.
I remember Sweet
I would
Daddy
challenge
Sika. Remember
Scott
him?
to a
Sweet Daddy
wrestling
Siki,
match.
yeah.
I challenge him.
Me.
Yeah, you.
I will record it, and I will bring the
Typical
whiskey,
half fan, eh?
the whiskey and the popcorn.
As long as you
Typical
wear
outfit.
the total wrestling outfit.
Like the Fred Flintstone thing?
Oh,
the Bam Bam?
absolutely, yeah.
And you could be Pebbles.
Yeah.
I just changed my mind. I am not coming if you're putting him in that.
I got to guest announce a wrestling match that was put on by the then WWF at Memorial Arena. And I got in the ring and people were booing me. And a friend came and says,
Oh.
don't you think that was disgusting, Steve, the way they booed you? I said, have you seen the crowd?
I
Did
like
you like that crowd cheering for you?
I remember when I was in college, like wrestling events were a
was huge.
thing. Like we would
Well,
always
the Bears. They used yeah.
it was huge.
And then, I don't know. If
Bar
you
would be packed.
Yep.
Everybody's watching wrestling. The sound.
we used to have them in the arenas back
It's
home
funny.
and stuff like that.
And I worked in
absolutely.
Courtney and radio. I helped them set up the ring and everything.
Yeah.
And All-Star Vancouver Wrestling came to town.
yeah.
And Roy McClarty, the past master of the sleeper hold, I asked him, is that sleeper real? He put it on me. He says, Steve, I got to take it off because you're reading out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's like
Absolutely.
today's rear naked choke.
But
That's
yeah, I
real.
still go with no.
Well,
Predetermined
there's one on the
outcome.
island here. I get notifications on my email for ISN that
About-
wrestling. Yeah, This
interesting.
guy up
There's
island.
amateur wrestling all over the place.
I
It's
can't
quite
remember the name of it. I
popular.
should.
And roller derby, they call wrestling on wheels.
I actually love roller.
Roller derby is one of the best things.
I
Skinny
love
Minnie
it.
Miller.
It's
Remember
Skinny
her?
awesome.
Minnie Miller, yeah.
No, they have here
There's
in
a
Esquimalt.
women's sport that actually generates a lot of interest.
Ease of
or a
destruction.
fair amount. Yeah.
Oh no, they pack up.
Yeah, that's what I'm
they're-
saying.
What are they called? The Bells or
Ease of
no? That's
Destruction.
Seattle. I
The
think.
Eves of
Eves of Destruction,
Yeah.
and
A girl I used
yeah.
to work with used to roller skate for them, but she had to stop because she got a concussion.
I actually started training because like Souk wanted a team and I was roller skating with them and stuff, but then it kind of just, I got busy and it kind of fell to the wayside.
Oh, did it? They had one.
They were starting to like put together. They brought people together. And
I know they train a lot
Now,
in
is
the
that,
off season
is
at
that
Archie
hidden
Browning.
for real in roller derby?
I believe it is in roller derby. Yes.
I do know there is some roller derby that is similar to professional wrestling where the outcomes
is
are
predetermined.
So there's another Olympic sport.
So there,
Olympic sport.
because I think there's a
rid of
couple
all
of
the
different
dancing.
types of roller derby.
Yeah.
I've seen some where it's more of the race scoring points, and then I've seen some where it's a lot more fantastical where they're just beating the crap out of each other.
I mean, it's still pretty. Even when they're scoring for points, it's still a pretty tough game.
I've seen it at Archie Browning, and
Yeah,
it was pretty
full
entertaining.
on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Girl I used to belong to that team.
And there's another lady and a guy in town here that do roller skating kind of.
I went and it was
And
so
she's the one
amazing.
who used
be
to be
fun.
in that roller derby team, Andrea Boyce.
Is that her? Yeah, Andrew. Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
You look at her; she's a sweet, innocent little teenager.
I would say
she's
that's
like
more of a sport.
35-year-old mother.
Yeah, no.
I would say that's more of a sport than
Don't mess with
wrestling.
Wrestling? More,
No,
roller
more
derby.
than roller derby is
Yeah.
more than
More than wrestling.
Yeah. Again, it's the whole predetermined outcome for me. If
That's the
that's
outcome.
happening, it's not a sport. End of
Yeah.
story.
Oh, that's a fair argument. So now it's just an athletic display. Well, and
Yes, and it's
that's the main reason why
sports
it's
described as an
called
athlete, something that involves
sports
athletics.
entertainment is the term that they use.
okay, fair. And I
So
agree
that's
with that.
that's the term that
something, brother.
that's the term that gets used a lot to describe it. It's sports entertainment.
and I think that's the appropriate
Thanks to Hulk Hogan.
tag on it.
Yeah,
It
it's-
is
But Hulk
entertaining.
Hogan's getting ripped right now by all the ex-wrestlers.
Well, he apparently was not kind
No,
of
he's
a
kind
was,
of a
sleazy
dickhead, right?
guy.
He said something bad, and he was banned from the WWE. Then they reinstated him, and he's back now.
Yeah, but
as
he,
a
like even
spokesperson or figurehead.
yeah, no, he's getting ripped right now in the news for
Probably
whatever.
earned.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know. Spelling bee, is that a sport?
No,
No,
and we're not touching
hard
that.
No. I think we talked about this already.
All right. So, any final words, Steve?
Not really. No. I admit it. I've watched wrestling since I was a kid with my dad. All-Star Wrestling.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
My favorite? Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah.
Followed by the Dynamite Kid.
Yeah.
Followed by Davey Boy.
What about the Scottish guy, Piper? That was my guy.
Oh, Roddy.
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 I love Roddy.
He was my
He
guy.
was like the ultimate bad guy.
Yeah.
Again, back to the kilt thing.
Absolutely. 100%.
So they did these things
gruesome.
on TV. I think Biography did a series on the wrestlers, and they did one on Rowdy. And I didn't realize he was so hated. He was getting death threats.
Wow.
And people
really?
ate this thing up, and they thought it was real.
Yeah, but NASCAR drivers get death threats. Like those people that are that passionate about that. like that
NASCAR has a huge,
That is,
huge following.
They have a massive.
And it's a lot of crazy people.
Yeah.
Most of the drivers belong to the NASCAR Outreach, which is the religious.
I was amazed at all the pools. People are at NASCAR pools.
I was in a NASCAR pool my first season and I won.
Jeff Gordon.
Who'd you pick?
Honestly,
don't even know who they
it was
are.
years ago, and I can't even remember. It was funny. I was in it with Jim
Earnhardt.
Stewart, and he went away, and he was actually doing all the picking. I was just kind of put the money in, and then the last day he told me to pick somebody. I'm like, I'm not feeling that guy.
Oh, you
I'm
gotta pick
feeling
a new
this
guy every week?
I'm like, I'm feeling this guy, and he's like, okay, well, we either win or lose on your shoulders, and I picked the guy I wanted to, and we won $1,000. So
Nice.
there we go.
All right, guys, thank you for your topics today. If you have any suggestions for future topics, hit us up in the comments below or shoot me a message, mycallpodcast@gmail.com or mycallpodcast on Instagram. I want to thank Scott, Kris, and Steve once more for coming in on your great
Thank you.
topics. It was a lot of fun. We'll do this again soon and see if we can come up with some more topics that may ruffle a few feathers. We seem to like to do that. I know Scott does. So
I like to ruffle Scott's feathers.
Leafs. Just mention the Leafs, and he goes, didn't take long, did it?
So we'll do that. So again, thank you guys for coming out for your topics. Hit us up in the comments if you got any future suggestions. And thanks so much for watching. This has been Roundtable Episode 1. We'll see you guys soon.
Good night.
Right.